Okay, welcome everyone. We'll call this meeting to order of the Public Works Committee and ask Ms. Reyes if she'll call roll for us.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Here?
Commissioner Porter, Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Randy Petty,
Here.
Isaac Crispin,
Here.
Cliff Martin, and Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, and we'll move down to the approval of the minutes of February 23rd. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look those over, and if so, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, move down to number 4 is discussion and recommendation regarding update of roadway prioritization. Mr. Bunch.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Public Works Committee. As we discussed in a previous meeting, it's time for us to update our roadway prioritization list. If you look at the list that I've handed out, many of the projects on that list are in the process of being completed or have already been completed, and I'll go down that list and we'll kind of let you guys mark off exactly what we're doing at this time and how we want to make this list, how we want to prioritize and update it, and maybe add some new roadways to this list.
Okay.
We'll start out with the first one on there, Wilhite from Prince to Norris. That was completed a couple of years ago. That roadway is completely new and up to date, so we can mark that one off the list. 7th Street from Main to Norris. That was done in 3 phases. The actual 3rd phase is about to start construction. When is that, Justin?
It's scheduled to bid opening for the 12th of this month, or of May.
So that will be started pretty quickly, and we'll get all the way to Main on that one, so that one can be taken off the list. 21st from Wheaton to MLK. That is a roadway that still needs updating. That is by the hospital over there. We would like to update that in the near future. We'll start some processes of probably looking at some designs and maybe getting with an engineering firm to start the process of starting the engineering series on that. Yano from Norris to Humphrey. That is one that we actually have, I guess they're working on plans at this time. Is that correct, Justin?
The drainage design is completed for that particular roadway, but we don't have any roadway design completed for it.
Okay.
That is in need because there is new development going in that area. We will need a new roadway out that direction to the east. MLK Grand to 21st, and that's one that Justin can maybe update us on. He's been in contact with the engineers and the funding possibilities for that roadway.
And we're just going to go ahead and call this the city update. That's later on in the agenda. But no, it is completed from a design standpoint, and so obviously we were looking for construction funding for that particular project. We did apply for transportation project funds. That application has gone into the state of New Mexico. We requested around $4.3 million, I believe, from the state, with the city of Clovis contributing about $3.5 million towards that particular project. So it's going through the application. I believe that the recommendation has to come from the Secretary of Transportation in September, and then awards would be, or applicants would be notified, obviously, around October and start getting those contracts, should we be awarded the funds for that particular project. But it wrapped up design and seeking construction funding now.
Okay, excuse me. The next one on the list is Wheaton from 6084 to 21st Street. That, of course, would tie in with the earlier one that we said, MLK from, excuse me, Yano from, 21st from Wheaton to MLK. That would tie into that one, but I don't think that one is as important anymore as it was because of the construction of a signal at, what is that, 467 and 6084. So actually, a lot of the traffic is going to travel on 21st through that intersection all the way to 467 in turn and go through the signalized application to get to the base. So that one probably could be lowered on the priority list. That's something we'll have to discuss and look at in the future. The next one is Prince from Mabry to 10th. That is actually a state highway that we have this on the list because it is in need of reconstruction in the near future. We will be working with the state, and they could possibly come up with their own project for this, so it wouldn't be any of our dollars going to this, so we'll keep you updated on that. Norris, 21st to Yano. Justin, can you give me an
Yeah,
update on that?
and that one, we are actually going out to bid for a mill and resurfacing, as well as concreting around the roundabout. That's scheduled to actually go out to bid on the 8th of May, and then we'll be opening bids on that in June the 9th is what it's scheduled to.
So that one can be taken off the list. The next one on the list is Humphrey from Humphrey and 21st intersection. I know we've talked in the past about the state was doing a design for a roundabout at that intersection, and I don't have any updates. Justin may have any, I don't know.
Yeah, the DOT hasn't, they progressed to a certain point about, I wouldn't even call it 30% design plans. With the thought process originally being that the state would provide the design of the particular project and the city of Clovis would fund the construction of that project. The city of Clovis has never identified any funding to go towards that, and so the state basically stopped doing any design that they were doing at the time.
Are they still is DOT still wanting to do a roundabout there?
I have no idea. I mean, that was the original plan. Honestly, I think it sets up nicely for a roundabout because the intersection is offset. And so from an alignment standpoint, you wouldn't have to realign anything. You could simply build the roundabout. Also, what roundabouts are very effective at is slowing down traffic.
Managing flow.
And so, in managing flows. And so, they don't cost you anything from an electricity standpoint. And so, it's the maintenance on them is simple. And they control speeds really well. So, as far as I know, they were designing a roundabout at the city's discretion, saying that's what we wanted to put in there. And I still think it's an appropriate application.
Okay.
And how about with the housing and everything, Humphrey to 21st, or I'm sorry, 21st to Humphrey? So I don't see that on here.
Yeah, that's the last, oh, no, you're right.
No, so 20, no, it'd be Norris to Humphrey, right?
On
On
21st.
21st,
Right.
That's
right.
one we would need to add on here if we deem that to be a necessity, and you are correct, there is new housing development out there. There's possibility we need a excel lane and a decel lane over there for the traffic coming out of that housing development. That's something we need to look at.
Okay.
The next one would be Humphrey from Yano to 21st. Basically, that is the city limits in that area. Basically, that roadway is still just what I would call a county chip seal road. There is a sewer line that runs down Humphrey through there that's about 25 foot deep in some areas. Ever since they put that in 30-something years ago, we've had problems with that settling because it was such a great depth that they didn't get the compaction. So we have problems in that area when we do get rain. We haven't had any rain in a long time, so we haven't had that much problem. But there is some areas that are worn out in that area. We just have these on the list to possibly update these into a actual residential roadway instead of just a regular chip seal county road. And same for Humphrey from 21st to Mabry. On that section, there is a milk truck hauler company that resides along that corridor. A lot of milk trucks going back and forth through there, and they do wreak havoc on that thin chip seal roadway. So that needs to be looked at also.
Okay.
Is there any ideas from the committee of other places? I know Commissioner Jones there said that he would like to put 21st from Norris to Humphrey on the list, so we will add that, and we may bring back that at the next meeting to see how we want to prioritize that, if we want to move it up the list and move something down or something like that.
Did we talk about Brady from Prince to 21st Street? Did we talk about that in the last commission meeting?
At the last commission meeting?
Brady from Prince to Norris or to Hull?
No, I think it was from
Prince
Norris
to
Yeah, we discussed that in the last meeting, that when we were doing that project is the same time we were about to do the Hull Street overpass project, and we didn't know how much the Hull Street overpass was going to, cost for the construction of that. So we had monies from the state to do that section, but we, instead of doing a 4-inch roadway through there, we decided to do a 2-inch asphalt roadway and save the rest of the money for the whole street overpass. At that time, they suggested that if we could make that roadway last 4 years, it would be great, then we could go back and do that. That's been
12 years
12
ago.
years ago. So the roadway has lasted, and we have done one chip seal on that to make that last, but it is one that needs to be put on this list also.
Okay, so that's Prince to
Princeton Norris.
Norris?
The other way doesn't get as much truck traffic, so it is holding up better. But that is a designated truck route along that corridor.
Okay.
So if you want to take those ones we give you off the list, and then before the next meeting, bring back anything you might want to add to the list, we can come back at that time, make the list up, then we can vote on how we want to prioritize. That's how we've done it in the past. And I believe this list, this goes to the ICIP, correct?
Well, we utilize this is a recommendation to the city commission, and then we'll take this to the city commission for final approval. And then what we utilize the list for is, as we're out seeking funding for the projects, whether it be design or construction, obviously we gotta have design before we can go to construction. And so that allows us to prioritize our ICIP list that we submit to the state of New Mexico. And when we're going after capital outlay dollars, or when we're going after grant dollars, it gives our public works department guidance to where we're not just taking a shotgun approach to the projects that we're picking and choosing. They've been vetted by this particular committee and obviously the city commission, and to where we're have some organization to what we're doing within the department. So that's what we utilize this list for. But it is fluid, and so it's always up to the discretion of the Public Works Committee as well as the City Commission if we need to reprioritize or change the projects throughout the years.
Yeah, and I was just looking at some of these, and we were talking about the 21st Wheaton to MLK. That seems to be a pretty heavily traveled road. So yeah, I definitely think that needs to stay high on the list, as well as Norris to Humphrey. You know, there's a lot of residential out in that area, and that's
And
pretty bad condition out there.
And Mr. Chairman, what we did last time when we originally set up the prioritization list was, once we had the roadways established which we wanted to look at, we actually went out and did traffic counts. And so that way we were basing our decisions on actual data. And so, I mean, if you actually have a traffic count and one road has 500 ADT on it and another one has 2,000 ADT on it, you know which one gets traveled more. And so it helps you make an educated decision on where you should prioritize those projects.
Okay.
So is this list something that we need to prioritize, like what's most important to least important, or is this the prioritization right here?
Yeah, so it goes from most important, and not least important. It's just, basically it's the roadways that are deteriorating and then have high traffic volumes on them. And so once again, it gives us direction for when we're going out and seeking funding, which project is the highest priority for us to go and seek funding for.
Okay, I think MLK's been on there for some time, but we need to
MLK
continue.
Well, and they all have been on there for some time, to be honest with you, simply because the funding opportunities that the city of Clovis has, and which is worth bringing up, is we have our roadway bond, and that generates about $3.5 million every 3 years. Well, a lot of these roadways, if you notice, are rural roadways that we're trying to convert to potentially to an urban typical section. And the way the city is set up and gridded, our major roadways are usually about 1 mile increments. And honestly, to rebuild a roadway nowadays for a mile, it's going to cost you $5-6 million. The MLK project is upwards of $8 million, depending on the total scope of work. And so you can see that our road bond that generates $3.5 million doesn't even cover a full reconstruction of a project. And so it's going to take us time to get through these lists. And so that's why we look at all of our funding opportunities, whether it be capital outlay through the state of New Mexico, whether it may be MAP funding, co-op funding. Now the state has set up this transportation project fund, which I think is going to be very beneficial across the state of New Mexico for those annual funding opportunities that we can try and just, we're going to have to plug away at it, and that's what we have been doing. Originally when we started this and started the Road Bond cyclical program, that was back when north of the roundabout was a 2-lane. Wilhite was a 2-lane. MLK north of 21st Street was a 2-lane. And so we've just been plugging away at it over the years and trying to find all the funding opportunities that we can.
And we do try to do them in phases, like you said, MLK, as we have done from Grand to 7th on MLK. That's part of a phasing process to get as much as we could with the dollars we had.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that on the MLK, is that, you got Grand to 21st, is that Grand to 21st or 7th to 21st?
It's gonna be 7th to 21st now.
Okay, yes, okay.
And it's still $8 million.
True. Yeah, I know, I mean, we can add to this all the time, these have been on here as long as I can remember, some of them, and so it's a continuing process to try to find funding for these roads, so,
I'd really like to add Prince to Norris
okay.
on there.
And the other one that I would recommend adding on there is 21st from Prince to Norris as well. We did a mill and fill on that one back about 2010 time period as well, and just traffic volumes and loads on those roadways have started to deteriorate them.
But I think what we can do is just, at our next meeting, we have our updated list from each person, and we can go through that list, make our own determination on, hey, this is what we recommend. Let's get some traffic counts on those roads that we don't have traffic counts on yet, and then that'll help us prioritize that to take to the city commission at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sounds good, and we also could bring our robotics program in that we have purchased. That will show us the roadway and their condition from a scale of 1 to 5 on their condition. That might also go into how we rate these roadways also.
Yeah, Clint, we've got some new commissioners up here, and we also have a new member up here, and they may not be familiar with the robotics program. Could you maybe talk about that just a little bit so they'll be familiar with that?
Yes, a couple years ago, we purchased a roadway monitoring system that actually shows you the conditions of the roadways. Mr. Hewitt that's in behind that glass over there, he's the one who actually got with the company and actually drove each one of these roadways with a camera in his window of his vehicle. That information that he obtained from the camera was downloaded into a robotics system that actually monitors the pavement condition, the pavement mileage, and the width of the roadways to kind of give us a overall view of the condition of the roadways in town. And we've been using that every time we just make decisions on what roadways we want to chip seal, what ones we want to just repair, or the ones that need total reconstruction. So it's a computer program that kind of helps us out and justifies what roadways need to be updated.
It's a great
really
tool,
handy tool.
It really is.
definitely.
So at the next meeting, we can certainly bring that up for the new members and show them what it looks like and what the pavement evaluation looks like. And unfortunately, there's a lot of red on that map, not a lot of green.
Well, what, in the city of Clovis, I believe we have 200 plus miles of streets,
At least 250 now.
250. So that's a lot of street projects. They're ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to number 5, which is discussion and recommendation regarding speed control signs on Gideon Street. Mr. Bunch.
Thank you, Chairman. At a previous meeting, it was agreed upon to put some radar speed control signs on Gideon Street. After that meeting, I got with Mayor Pro Tem Bryant and discussed that. We had some concerns that we thought that maybe this area was not the best place to utilize these speed control signs, because every time I was out there, I didn't notice anything, problems out there. I didn't notice a lot of traffic. I didn't really notice that it really needed it by my eye. But actually, we did the actual traffic study, and you have that up in your packet. We have determined that this area does have excess speeding at certain times of the day. If you look at your first page there, the southbound lane on Gideon around the Yucca area, the 85th percentile of the traffic in that area was going 41.5 miles per hour, and that's a 30-mile-an-hour residential zone, so they are actually speeding quite a bit down that roadway. If you look at your second page, the northbound lane at the same intersection there around Yucca, the 85th percentile was 37.69 miles per hour. So after discussing that with Mayor Pro Tem Bryant, I think we've determined that we'll go ahead and stick with the original recommendation of the committee. It's already been approved. I just have to send out the notices to the residents that will be affected by the placement of these radar speed signs. And I think if it's the will of the commission, we'll just proceed as was approved before.
Okay. And Commissioner Jones, you're exactly right on traffic studies. You know, when we first talked about this and discussed it with Mr. Bunch, I thought maybe we could utilize this in other areas of the city to, you know, better, have a little bit better usage of this speed control sign. But after doing the traffic study, it's pretty obvious that, you know, we need to put it on Gideon. Now, I know that we're talking north of 21st on Gideon. Exactly where are we talking about?
I don't have the addresses in front of me. One of them was near State Street, and the other one was at the 2700 block there.
Okay.
I don't know exactly. We've kind of moved it away from the actual start where there's no control. We've spaced it a third and a third from on the roadway, and I don't have the exact addresses on me right now.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the new members' information, we do get a lot of concerns regarding speeding in residential subdivisions. And our first instinct is to say, well, we just need to put up stop signs. And putting up stop signs is not an approved form of traffic control for speeding. We sign all of our roadways in accordance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And it actually specifically says that you should not use stop signs for speed control. And so there's other forms. Obviously, the radar signs is something that we've been utilizing over the last several years. And we've had conversations regarding what other techniques are out there that would allow us to try and control the speed of traffic. And so we'll, at a future Public Works Committee, we'll give a presentation on what those alternatives are, whether they're you can divert traffic. Obviously, we're kind of stuck on our horizontal alignments. Usually curves in roads help slow people down. Vertical curves in roads help slow people down. The width of our roadways actually slow people down. We have very wide roadways, which is conducive to speeding because people feel safe. And I always give the example is when you're going through traffic control, when they're doing road construction and you start having the barriers next to you or the barrels next to you, you instinctively slow down because you're not as comfortable when you have a wider roadway. And so there's different methods that we can utilize other than signage that we could take a look at and maybe make some considerations. The city of Clovis does have a speed hump policy. And so if a resident would like speed humps installed, we have an application process. We have to do a speed study because then you start impacting your neighbors, et cetera. And so we do have a policy like that in place just for your information as well. So
And there's also a cost to the resident.
Correct. So if there's a need in the speed control study shows that there's a need, and I'm reaching way back into my brain here because we haven't done one in a really long time, or if ever. The cost, the city may share in some of the cost if it shows that there's a need. If there's not a need, then I think maybe the residents could still do it, but it's 100% on them.
Okay. You know, we talked about this at multiple meetings about the problem with residential areas, and we've been dealing with this for quite some time. And, of course, the problem comes from, you know, especially Prince Street being so heavily traveled, that people look at alternate routes to get from to the north side of town. And unfortunately, it's of course all through residential areas. So this causes our largest problem with speeding in residential areas, you know. And we have those speed control devices at, where Manana has one, we have one out Colonial,
And then one on Eccles.
and one, that's right, one at Eccles. Are those the only three we have?
We have one on East 21st Street as you're coming into town as well.
Okay. Okay.
That's one of the newest ones out there.
Yep.
Had problems with people coming in from that direction, speeding and getting to the intersection a little quick.
You know, I can say it gets your attention, because I come off Prince quite a bit going on Manana. And if I'm going a little bit too fast, it flashes red at you, and it gets your attention pretty quick. So I don't know if it slows everybody down, but it definitely slows me down. You know, of course, I don't speed anyway, so, I mean, that's not a
How do
problem.
you know it goes red then?
Oh, no, wait a minute. I remember the last meeting there.
That was a different problem.
I don't think so.
Any other questions for the committee members? No? Okay, when do we plan on putting this up, and,
We've already purchased the radar speed signs. They're already put together. We just have to put out the notices to the residents that will be affected. Then we'll have to have the bases poured, which is a concrete base put in the ground. That doesn't take very long. Once that's cured, all we have to go in is bolt them up and set the radar to the right direction, and everything will be good. So it will be in the next month, definitely.
oh, okay,
Yeah, it'll be quickly.
pretty quick, good, okay. All right, we'll move down to number 6, update on current projects. We'll move to our city update with Mr. Howald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. 7th Street, as I mentioned earlier, is out to bid right now. We've held the pre-bid meeting already. We had 2 contractors show up for that meeting, and those, like I said, those bids are scheduled to open on the 12th of May. North Street also, I mentioned, will be going out and advertise for bidding on the 8th of May with bids due on the 9th of June. FEMA, we have wrapped up our comments and we'll be resubmitting our responses to their RFI this week. And then, of course, they have a certain time period in which they're allowed to review those and make any other comments that they may have. So still working, trying to complete that project and get those floodplains modified based off of the new modeling that we have done. Purdue and Eccles, that is scheduled to start design this summer, but in the meantime, we've gone ahead and applied for congressionally delegated spending, also known as earmarks, and so we've been successful this last year. Congress just recently brought that opportunity back, and so we actually received funding for the Lyceum Theater, $500,000 this last session with Congress, and so one of the projects that we applied for was the Purdue and Eccles drainage improvements in that area. The dams, we still continue to work with the Dam Safety Bureau on, waiting to receive a scope and fee from CDM Smith for the particular EAPs that we have to develop. We are going to separate out the running water draw dam because I'm going to try and get the state to help participate in that particular project simply because the city of Clovis doesn't necessarily need that dam. We don't benefit from it. The state of Texas benefits from it, so I don't think the city of Clovis should bear 100% of the cost to develop an emergency action plan for that particular dam. The reuse project, phase 2, we actually had the substantial completion walkthrough this last Friday. K Barnett still has some minor work that they were doing, still some concrete collars they need to pour around some valves, some minor grading along Thornton and along Wilhite they were working on, and then they still need to get the vaults set at Berry Elementary so that connection can be made, as well as we had a vault originally designed to go out to Gaddis. We've got the pipe stubbed out over there, and the vault was left out for at the golf course, and so we're metering that flow because we know how much everybody else is using, plus we know how much we're producing, so we can do the math to calculate how much we're putting into the lake right now. So we're going to move the vault that was designed to meter, that was designed at Gaddis, to the golf course, and then we'll put that one in at Gaddis at a future phase. Let's see here, what else we have on there? mentioned MLK and the Yana storm drain. Mentioned that. So if you have any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Holwell?
None here.
No?
I believe Mr. Bunch had an update on the residential paving.
Yeah, K Barnett is finalizing the residential paving for this year. They're finishing up on Lore Street around Sandia. Should be finished in the next day or two, I would say. We will be coming to you in the future after we finalize this next budget and asking for recommendations on more residential paving areas. We will have the robotics information as well as traffic counts and anything you may need once we start that process also. I'll give you an update on what the street department is doing right now. The last few days, the street department's been over at Goodwin Trails. They've been clearing out fire hazards in that area. We've had some concerns from that trailer park that there was a fire started there the other day, and they didn't want, of course, to spread to their property. So we've been out there grubbing and removing dead trees and any structures put out there by indigent people in the area. So that's finalized yesterday. The sanitation department, we've just purchased 72 new residential 3-yard containers. And we have about 40 that we have refurbished. We're starting today with the process of replacing any containers in the residential areas that are in need of the, rusted out bottoms, broken lids, and anything like that. So we're working on that the next few days also.
Good. How's our alley cleanups coming?
I've went out and monitored quite a few here recently. We don't have a big problem as we had in the past. It seems like the alleys are staying a little bit cleaner, knock on wood, at this time. We have had the street department help out with the residential alley cleanups. It does help out when we can get more manpower. Of course, the street department will be busy with their chip seal and road program pretty quick, and we won't be able to utilize them as much, and that's when we will finally probably start getting behind in some of the alley cleanups. But we're doing what we can, and like I said, I've noticed personally that right at this time right now, it's not that bad.
Good. Mr.
And
Brown?
I had, when they redid the parking lot there at the Allsups on Brady and Prince Street, that when they took up the old asphalt, they put it down the alleyway, which was a really good idea, to use that there. But I don't know if you looked at it or not, but there's big chunks of asphalt down that alley.
I don't know if you've been down there. About 2 weeks ago, I sent Larry Hall over there with the blade.
Has
him
he
and his
been?
guys.
I haven't been out to look
Okay.
at it,
It
but I can
should be
look at it.
it should be repaired for you.
Okay.
They took the blade out there. They got all the big chunks out and just utilized the actual good crushed millings.
Yeah,
So that
that-
alley should be in good shape for you now.
Tear up a lawnmower in a hurry.
Right. I think if you go ahead and take a look at it, just let me know if you have any problems with it. But I think it's been taken care of.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Talking about the south side of town a little bit, I know at one time we had talked about some demolition work that we were doing in Sunrise Edition and some cleanup over in that area as well. Are we still doing some things over there, or kind of how's that going?
And so we have working with building safety and still trying to work on unsafe structures. And so I've actually asked them to take a look at the area. We're taking a look at ownership and general ownership and the problems that we have, and trying to work on potentially scheduling a meeting with one particular property owner, saying, look, we have lots of violations. And honestly, and from an alley cleanup standpoint, it's consistent in that area. I know that our crews have been out there several times, and we cleaned it up, and it's amazing how quickly it fills back up.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a continuing issue.
It is, and it's also, to me, it's like a fire issue. And you got mobile homes all over there, and it's a big one.
Yeah. But we'll continue to work at it. Any other questions?
Are there any sort of punitive measures in the zoning codes that might address violations?
Yeah, and so we do have punitive measures within so if you're not maintaining your property correctly, what we actually do is we have an environmental response team, ERT team, that if you do have violations that are not getting corrected, we will go in there and correct those for you. We track our manpower and equipment costs, and then we actually bill the property owner. Okay. A lot of times, unfortunately, those fees and charges do not get paid. And so what end up happening is the city of Clovis will eventually place a lien on that piece of property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good update. Move on to Clovis Municipal Schools with Mr. King.
Mr. Chair, committee members, good morning. It's been a while,
Morning.
I guess. I was reminded when I came in this morning, where have you been? Who are you?
Yeah, I thought we had a new guy.
Yeah, I'm just filling in today, so don't expect me next time. So we've got a lot of projects going on now, a lot in the works here, so I'll kind of run down what they are. High school window and door replacements, Marshall window replacement, and Yucca, we started that. We got to finish that project, but those will be hopefully completed this summer. We've had a lot of issues getting the aluminum frames and especially the glass for these things. So if you notice, if you go by Yucca, we've got some of the storefronts in, but we've got plywood panels in some of the areas where some of the glass and glazing goes because we haven't been able to get it. And these purchase orders and contracts have been in place now for close to a year. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we deal with on a daily basis in construction these days as far as material availability. It's really tough. Sometimes you can get stuff in a couple of days, but then sometimes it takes 6-8 months to get it. So you never know. So hopefully we'll get those wrapped up this summer. We are finishing final touches on Yucca West parking lot replacement. I plan on starting that hopefully as soon as school is out in May, so we can get that parking lot replaced over summer. That'll be the parking lot, raised curbing, parking lot lighting, and drainage at that parking lot. The high school, I don't know if you've been by there lately, but we just completed it's a temporary completion of the fencing and gates. We did the gates at both entrance and exits at 21st, and then the entrance and exit at the main parking lot on Purdue. We were seeing a lot of issues out there, keeping the police department busy, and so we needed to get that campus locked down. So we went ahead. We have an award with the state, but the cost of steel went up 350%. And the availability of the steel to actually build the fencing and gates to match what we already had. So it just got to the point where we just need to get something in there to make it safe. So we did that for now. So during the day, we have our security guards out there. The only gate that's open during the day is at Purdue, and the security guard monitors that, and so the other 21st gates are shut down. So it's cutting down a lot of that traffic that would cut through during the day, or even pedestrians walking through campus. So we feel good about that for now. Berry Phase 1 is ongoing. Completion hopefully by July. Again, certain issues with materials and availability and getting work and keeping people working, and seems like every other day, half the crews are out, can't get subs in, they've got COVID, they're quarantined. I mean, it's still going on, but we're pushing hard and hopefully be done on time. We're going to be doing several concrete walking tracks at elementary schools. We completed one at Zia already. They're just kind of like for pre-K to ride their tricycles around, and we've had one at Mesa for a lot of years, but it's just kind of a sidewalk that just follows the terrain and curves and goes around the perimeter of the site for kids to walk or play and ride bikes, and so we're putting those in place. Started and we'll continue with those. Going over pricing now to replace all of the remaining evac coolers throughout the district. Those are primarily in the gyms and locker rooms, so we can get packaged rooftop units installed in place of those so that we are in compliance with the air quality with the state. replacing all the drinking fountains with water coolers that have bottle fillers, again, to get away from the contact, regardless of what happens with COVID. Outdoor classrooms, we've got approval. These are federally funded. We have approval. We are putting in, I think it's 36 of them, district-wide. Basically, it's a shade structure, concrete pad with a shade structure, and then tables mounted inside, but functioning as potentially outdoor classroom space when weather allows, of course. RFPs, we have Berry Phase 2 that we just awarded the architect, so we're going to begin design next month for that. That's the rest of that project, so a few outdoor things to wrap up, but primarily interior renovation. We did an athletics, I call it an athletics RFP. So I met with the athletic director, all the coaches, and got their list of wants and needs. My initial estimates on those projects and the physical facility needs that we have is north of 20 million. Kind of gives you an idea of the need that we have. Even though, you know, we've made improvements over the years, there's still a lot of stuff to do. So we're going to do kind of a feasibility program study to get initial cost estimates and a game plan so we can add to the master plan and then kind of prioritize those needs and get those projects worked into future bonds. We have, or we're putting out a weapons detection RFP to add to the camera system at the high school. We've been researching that, and we're going to see if that's a feasible thing to add to our camera system out there at the high school.
Have you talked to Hobbs at all by chance? They
We
have
did.
a very similar
We did.
system in.
Yes, yes,
Works good,
yeah.
really good.
So, yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to integrate into our cameras. Excuse me. And then finally, phase 1 of the, I call it the Rain Tree Project, but phase 1, which was a driving factor, the alternative school. So we're doing the RFP. That'll go out, I think Sunday. I think it advertises this Sunday to convert the SSC Student Support Center into the alternative school. So that's my list. That's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
A lot of activity going on in the school system.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I would just point out that the school's struggles with construction and receiving materials are also going to be our struggles. And so while we like to have estimated completion dates on projects, at this time, there's just things that are unfortunately out of our controls. And so we just ask for patience in trying to get through some of this construction work.
Well, unfortunately, that's everywhere. I mean, not just city and schools.
Yes.
It's every business, every operation is having that same issue with getting supplies and getting products. So, you know, something we're just having to live with at this time.
And cost.
Yes, and cost.
You know, we called and got a price on one whiteboard to replace at one of our schools, and the whiteboard was $400. Shipping was $900.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
I didn't buy it, by the way.
Go to Amazon Business.
All right. Move down for the good of the order. Does anybody have anything they'd like to speak on that's not on the agenda? Nope. Okay. Our next meeting date and time is 8:30 a.m., May the 25th. right here, and we'll talk about roadway prioritization list, and I'd kind of like to maybe have an update from building safety, and just visit with them a little bit about some of the projects they've got going on and some things that are happening with them. So, okay. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thanks everyone for being here.